So we're going to talk now about core skill number 3, follow-up and closing. Now this is part of the MAX system. The MAX system is skill number 1 is building your list. Skill number 2 is inviting people to look at MAX. Skill number 3 is following up and closing. And skill number 4 is showing a plan. If you haven't seen the other segments, I would encourage you to go ahead and watch beginning at skill number 1. So we're focusing now on following up and closing. And here's what we should keep in mind. Following up is simply doing what you said you were going to do, being professional, and that's important. Our goal is always to set the next exposure or next assignment, because people actually typically take between 4 and 6 exposures before they join your business. And so when we're doing following up, we want to make sure that we can get to that next assignment and it's very clear for both of us what we're going to do. Ultimately, we want to get to the point where we can show a game plan to someone and get them excited about the vision of what could be possible for their business with MAX. We want to condense those exposures for better results. So if you invite them to take a look at MAX and then 2 months later they take a look at something else and then 2 months later they speak to someone, that's an awfully long time and it's very hard to keep the excitement going. And so ultimately what we'd like to do is condense those exposures. If it's going to take 4 to 6 exposures to get someone to join your business, let's do that as quickly as we possibly can. And we'll talk a little bit about what that could look like. Now our goals are, let's find out where their interests lie. Are they more product focused, more business focused? Do they really love the science? Let's find out where their interests lie. Let's show them how MAX can be a benefit in their lives based on their interests, and let's help them make a decision. And again, remember, any decision they make is a great decision. It doesn't matter if it's a yes or a no, or I'm not interested in the business, I would just love to try the product. Any decision is terrific. It lets us all know where we sit. So what does follow-up look like? First, when you have booked a follow-up time, you're going to call your prospect and ask them. We said we were going to speak on Sunday night. You would have said that you had a chance to look at the DVD for sure by then. Have you had a chance to do that? Sometimes, guess what? They'll say, oh my gosh, no. The weekend got away from me. I just didn't have a chance. No problem. Just say, no problem, I understand. Sometimes life gets in the way. When do you think you'll have a chance to do it for sure? And let's reschedule. And just rebook your follow-up time. If they say yes, the one question you're going to ask, and this is really important, what did you like best about what you saw? Or what were you most interested in? So a question that leads their mind to think, oh, what did I like best? They'll come up with something positive and that will really show you where their interests lie. They might say, oh, I really thought the science sounded interesting. And then you work with them on that topic. Oh my gosh, you're right, the science is amazing. Oh, we've got 25 years of research behind it and it's just incredible science. You couldn't be more right. So go down a path with them, whatever they might say. I remember once someone said to me when I asked them, what did you like best about what you saw? They said, I really liked how Stephen Scott lost 9 jobs. I said, wow, really? That's what you like best? Well, you're right. You know, he found the magic of partnering. And oh my goodness, now, oh, it's incredible. When you find the right partner, it's really amazing. So find out what they like and go down that path with them. Now, once you've done that, and you've talked for a little bit about that, ask them. And this is really important. This is sometimes where people kind of fall down and then they don't really know where to go next in their follow-up. Ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is, I'd really love to get started in the MAX business, and 1 is, I'm not at all interested in MAX as a business. Where do you see yourself? And they'll tell you. Now, it might be a 5, it might be a 3, it might be a 7. It's rarely going to be a 10, and that's okay. And then we work with whatever number they've given us. Now, if it's a 1, fantastic. Thank them very much for being candid. And at that point, you'll want to explore whether they would be interested in being a customer, because really everybody should be on MAX products, or if they have anyone that they can refer to you who might be a better potential fit for this business opportunity. Now, if they are a 7 or above, that means that they're pretty interested in MAX as a business. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the 4-question closing. All right, and the 4-question closing sounds like this. And what you'll see is that some of the words on the slide are underlined and in blue. And those are the words that are really important to be using in your 4-question closing. So let's say someone says, I ask them, what did you like best about what you saw? And they say, oh my gosh, the product really sounded great. And I say, oh gosh, you're right, we talk about that. And I say, so tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is you're really interested in the business, and 1 is you're not at all interested in the business, where do you see yourself right now? And they'll say, well, I think I'm at a 7. Fantastic. So let me ask you something. Hypothetically, if you were going to get started in a business with Max, working part-time, how much would you need to make per month in order to make it worth your while? And they'll tell me, well, you know, I'd need to make probably $1,000 a month. Okay, fantastic. And if you were going to make $1,000 a month, how many hours per week do you think you would have to put into your Max business? They'll say, well, I'd probably have, 5 hours a week, maybe 10 hours a week. You'll get different answers. Okay, great. So if you were going to put 5 to 10 hours a week into your Max business to get to an income goal of $1,000 per month, how many months would you be willing to put in before you reach that goal? And they'll tell you, I'd be willing to do that for maybe 3 to 6 months. Okay, terrific. Now, if I could show you a plan to get to your income goal of $1,000 a month, working 5 hours a week for a period of 3 to 6 months, would you be ready to get started? And quite often, because they're already at a 7 to a 10, usually they'll be at a 7 to an 8 or a 9, then they'll say, yeah, I think I would. And at that point, you simply book an appointment to get together and show them a plan. If they're remote, if they're long distance from you, you can show them that plan over the phone. Either do it now or set up a future time to do that. So that's how it sounds if they're 7 or above. Now, if they're between a 2 and a 6, so they're not quite as far along in thinking, yes, absolutely, Max is a business for me, well, we're simply going to ask them, fantastic, because remember, any answer is great. Whatever answer we get is great. At least we know where they sit. And we'll simply ask them, okay, terrific, you're a 3. So tell me, what do you think you'd need to know or see next in order to move you closer to a decision? Either yes, Max is a business for me, or no, I'm not really interested in Max as a business. And let's say they say, for example, well, you know what, I'd really have to believe in the product. I'd really have to know the product would work, right? We hear that quite a bit. That's something that people will say quite often. Well, terrific. Now here's where we're going to give them a next assignment. And remember, we talked about the number of exposures that people will typically need in order to make a decision about joining your business. It's anywhere between 4 and 6 exposures. And our goal is to condense those exposures, right? So let's say someone's at a 3 and they say, well, I'd really have to believe in the product. I really would have to believe in the product. Then you might say something like, fantastic. Here's what I recommend. I've got some samples here. I'd like to get you started on those. And the other thing I'd like you to do is take a look at the Doctor's Choice video, because that'll really give you some confidence about the product. And you know what? I completely understand that in order for you to get involved in a business, you'd have to feel so rock solid about the product. That's what really most people feel. So I'd also like you to talk to a couple of people. I'd like to set up a couple of calls so a couple of my colleagues can share their product experiences with you as well. Does that sound fair? And they'll say, yep, that sounds fair. So now you've given them not 1 assignment, 3 assignments. They're going to start on the product, they're going to watch another tool, and they're going to talk to a couple of people. So that's a great way of condensing exposures. Now, you'll notice here that we say, if it feels right, go into a trial close. And here's what that would sound like. Let's see if I have it on the next, yes. So one thing that's really important is when someone says they're a 3, you don't say, great, now how much money do you want to make and can I get you started? You want to respect that they've said they're a 3, they're not ready. So remember the example we just went through where someone said, I'd really have to be confident about the product, and now we've just given them 3 assignments. So think about this as a partial close or a trial close. Fantastic. So we're going to get you started on some product. We'll have you take a look at the Doctor's Choice, and I'd like to set up a couple of calls with a few of my colleagues over the next week or so. Now, let's assume over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, you just feel rock solid about the products and you are very confident about those products. Let me just ask you something hypothetically. Assuming all of those questions get answered for you, if you were going to get involved in Max as a business, working part-time, how much would you need to make per month in order to make it worth your while? So now you go through the closing process again. You've honored where they're at. You've honored the fact they're a 3 or a 4 or a 5 and they really need more information, but you've now are very clear on what it may take once they get to that point for them to feel confident in Max as a business. So you don't take it all the way through to say, great, let's get together and show you the game plan right now. But what you could do is you could say, why don't we do this? We have an event coming up at the end of the month. By then, you will have been on the product for 2 weeks. You will have talked to a couple of my colleagues. You've watched the Doctor's Choice video. Why don't we plan to spend some time? And at that point, I can answer the rest of your questions and I can show you a plan of how you could get to your $1,000 a month working 5 hours a week in a period of 3 to 6 months. Does that sound fair? And chances are they're going to say, yes, sounds good. So now you've moved the process along. Now sometimes that's not going to feel right and you're going to gauge it. If they say, you know what, the timing in my life is just not right now. I've got so much on the go, I can't even think about this for another 6 months. You're not going to start to say, well, just hypothetically, if you were going to get involved in a business, you know, how much would you have to make? Listen. Remember, listening is key. Relationships are key. We honor and respect where they're at. And when you think it's appropriate, move it along and then book the next exposure. All right? So here's an activity. All right, so an activity, and if you're watching this at home, I would encourage you to do this with a partner. Practice it yourselves. You can do it with a partner on the phone. If you're working in a small group, you can partner up together in your group. And think about 3 scenarios. Think about the follow-up and close process where a prospect is at a 7 to 10. They're feeling really good about the Max business. Think about a scenario where a prospect is a 2 to a 6. So they need something next. And for those of you who are role-playing on the other end, try a few scenarios. One where it just wouldn't feel right to move forward to a trial close, and one where you can try a trial close and see how it feels. And remember, when you're role-playing, the person who is role-playing with you as the prospect, always trust your gut. If it's not feeling good to you, then know that something in the role-play is, you just need to tweak it a bit. So discuss it, debrief it, see how it feels. If it's feeling great, then you know you're doing it well and it's working. If it doesn't feel quite right from the prospect's perspective, then there's probably something you want to consider tweaking. And then look at it where a prospect is a 1. They're not interested at all. All right, try those 3 scenarios and work with them at home. Do one at a time. And then think about, did you get a firm next assignment? All right, that's what you want to be looking for. Did you get a firm next assignment, and how did your prospect feel and how did you feel? So go ahead and try those activities and make sure that you do a debrief. All right, thank you.